Evan walked a few steps ahead of me. My grandson always did that, rushing forward, eager, restless. 32 years old, strong, smart, successful in ways I'd never been at his age. He had that forward-leaning posture of someone who believed the future was something you chased, not something that could chase you back. Caleb and Lena lagged behind, laughing softly, their voices carried away by the wind before I could catch the words. They'd been like that all morning, quiet when they thought no one was listening, animated only when Evan turned around. I noticed things. I always had. The ridge narrowed ahead, the trail skirting dangerously close to a steep drop. There was a short section where a metal railing had been installed. Old, weather-beaten, but usually solid enough to steady yourself if your foot slipped. Earlier that morning, I'd seen Caleb leaning against it. Too hard. Too long. At the time, I told myself I was imagining things. 69-year-old men don't get invited on hikes because they're sharp. They get invited because people feel obligated, because it makes them feel kind. Evan stepped closer to the edge. "Evan," I said, my voice carrying just enough urgency to cut through the wind. "Watch your footing." The words had barely left my mouth when it happened. A sound echoed across the ridge. Sharp, hollow, not the crack of wood snapping, not the grind of stone shifting. Something else. Something final. Evan's boot slid on loose gravel, right at the edge. His body pitched forward, arms flailing as instinct fought gravity. The railing that should have stopped him gave way beneath his weight. Time slowed. I didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't remember my bad knee or the doctor's warnings, or the way my reflexes weren't what they used to be. I moved. I lunged forward, pain screaming through my leg as I stretched out, fingers grasping for Evan's jacket. For one impossible heartbeat, our hands met, skin to skin, grip to grip. Evan's eyes locked onto mine. No panic, no confusion, just understanding, pure, devastating recognition. In that instant, before gravity claimed him, he knew. This wasn't an accident, and somehow, I think he knew I knew too. Then something slammed into me from behind, hard, deliberate. I was knocked off balance, my grip breaking as my body twisted sideways. I hit the ground shoulder first, bone smashing against rock as white-hot pain tore through my chest. The air exploded out of my lungs in a sharp, useless gasp. Evan disappeared over the edge. The sound of his body hitting the slope below echoed through the ravine, once, twice, before fading into a sickening silence. My vision blurred. For a moment, all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears, then voices. "Oh my God, Lena." Too loud, too sudden, too perfectly panicked. "Evan, Evan," she screamed. "Someone help." I rolled onto my side, pain ripping through me as I tried to draw a breath that wouldn't come. Every inhale felt like glass in my lungs. Through the haze, I saw them. Caleb stood a few feet away, hands raised to his head, his expression frozen somewhere between shock and calculation. Beside him, Lena. Her hands trembled, her mouth hung open, her eyes were dry. They weren't panicked enough. "Mr. Harris?" she cried, rushing toward me. "Are you hurt?" I tried to answer. Nothing came out but a rasp. Below us, from somewhere down the slope, a sound drifted upward. Weak, but unmistakably alive. Evan. Relief hit me so hard, it almost hurt worse than the fall. "He's alive," I wheezed. "Call emergency services." Caleb was already pulling out his phone. He glanced at the screen, then shook his head with exaggerated frustration. "No signal up here," he said. "I'll drive down to the highway." Too fast. Too rehearsed. He didn't even try moving to another spot. He didn't look worried enough. "I'll go with you," Lena said immediately. "He might need immediate transport." "No," I forced out, every word scraping my throat raw. "Stay, both of you." Lena crouched beside me, her hand pressing onto my uninjured shoulder. Not comforting, controlling. "Then go," I gasped. "Get help." Caleb hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. They hadn't planned for witnesses. 5 minutes, He said finally. I'll be back. He took off down the trail toward the trucks. Lena stayed behind. She smiled at me. It didn't reach her eyes. Just breathe, she murmured softly. Help's coming. Below us, Evan groaned again, a sound that twisted something deep in my chest. I should get to him, I said, trying to push myself upright. A fresh wave of pain exploded through my shoulder, and my arm went numb. Lena gently but firmly pressed me back down. You're injured, she said. It's safer to wait. You could climb down, I said, watching her carefully. She shook her head. Too risky. Smart. She wanted distance. Time. They thought I was just an old man. They didn't know who I used to be. They didn't know that before I rebuilt engines in a quiet Montana workshop, I rebuilt order in places where chaos ruled. Places where people smiled while planning your death. They didn't know that instincts don't retire. They just get quieter, sharper. How long, I asked calmly, have you and Caleb been planning this? Her head snapped toward me. You're confused, she said quickly. You hit your head. No, I said, my head's fine. Her face went blank. The smile vanished like a light switched off. I saw you this morning, I continued. You loosened the railing. That's not true. And Caleb shoved me. You fell. No, I said softly. I was pushed. Her jaw tightened. You're in shock. No, I replied. I'm prepared. Something changed in her eyes. She stood slowly, one hand drifting toward her jacket pocket. Looking for your phone? I asked. She froze. I reached into my jacket with my good hand, every movement sending fire through my chest. My fingers closed around my phone. No signal. Didn't matter. I pressed the button. One sharp tone echoed in the quiet mountain air. What was that? She whispered. Insurance, I said. She scoffed. There's no service. It doesn't need service. I leaned my head back against the rock, closing my eyes. James insisted on the beacon years ago. Satellite-based. Untraceable, unignorable. It told exactly one man, exactly where I was. James Walker. Former colonel. Private security now. A man who never ignored a signal like that. Who did you call? Lena asked, her voice no longer sweet. A friend. She took a step back. Below us, Evan's voice drifted up again, weak, strained, but alive. Lena, he called. My leg stuck. She turned toward the edge, forcing her smile back into place. Don't move, babe, she called sweetly. Help's coming. I watched her calculate. Minutes, angles, risk. Did you ever care about him? I asked quietly. Her mask slipped, just for a second. Evan's boring, she said flatly. Caleb has vision. $2 million worth of vision. Footsteps crunched on gravel. Caleb returned, breathing hard. No signal anywhere, he announced. Might take hours. Hours. Enough time to finish the job. You pushed me, I said. He blinked. You fell. I watched you sabotage the railing. Their pretense collapsed like rotten wood. Lena's voice softened. Hours is a long time. They looked toward the edge. Toward Evan. They were done pretending. And I finally understood. I wasn't supposed to survive the first push. The mountain didn't rush us. That was the worst part. No sudden storm, no rock slide, no dramatic shift to force decisions. Just time. Time stretching thin, pressing down on all of us in ways that made every breath feel louder than it should have been. Lena stayed close. Too close. She hovered near my injured side, her body angled just enough to look attentive while quietly limiting my movement. If I shifted, her knee blocked me. If I leaned forward, her hand appeared, gentle, steady, restraining, not comforting, controlling. Just breathe, she said softly like she was talking to a child. You took a nasty fall. I looked up at her face. Perfect skin, calm eyes, lips curved into something that almost passed for concern. Almost. You're very composed, I said. She smiled. I don't panic well. No, I replied, you rehearse. Her smile flickered for half a second. Not long enough for Caleb to notice, but long enough for me. Below us, Evan shifted again. Gravel trickled down the slope. followed by a sharp hiss of pain. "Careful," I called out. "Stay still." "I'm trying," he said, his voice strained. "It hurts to breathe." Lena glanced down briefly, then back at me. "We'll get him help. Caleb's gone for signal." "How long ago?" I asked. She paused. "A few minutes." I checked my watch. "Closer to 12, I said. Her lips pressed together. "Time feels different in a crisis." "Only when you want it to," I replied. The air between us tightened. She stood and took a few steps away, pacing slowly, like a woman trying to stay calm. But her pacing wasn't random. It traced a boundary, a quiet perimeter around me. I'd seen it before. Men guarding doors, women blocking exits, bodies positioned not to threaten, but to prevent. "You should lie back," she said. "You're shaking." "I'm cold," I answered. "Shock does that. And fear." "No," I said gently. "Fear makes people sloppy." She stopped pacing. "Do you think I'm afraid?" she asked. I met her eyes. "I think you didn't expect me to notice." Her fingers flexed at her sides. Caleb returned shortly after, breathless, shaking his head as he approached. "Nothing. No signal anywhere. We might have to hike down further." "How long?" Lena asked. He hesitated. "An hour. Maybe more." She exhaled sharply, like the news frustrated her. I watched their faces carefully. Not worried enough. People waiting for help watch the horizon. People waiting for time to pass watch each other. Caleb's eyes kept drifting back to the ravine. To Evan, still alive, still breathing, still inconvenient. "We should try to reach him," I said. "I can guide you." "You're injured," Lena replied quickly. "It's safer if you stay still." "I've climbed worse with broken ribs." "You're not moving," she said, firmer now. Caleb shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe she's right. We wait." "For what?" I asked. "For his condition to worsen?" Silence. Too long. That silence told me more than words ever could. "You know," I said calmly, "Evan told me something interesting a few months ago." Lena stiffened. "He said you didn't like heights," I continued. "That you refused to hike with him unless it was an easy trail." She scoffed. "I don't enjoy unnecessary risks." "And yet," I said, gesturing around us, "here we are." Caleb frowned. "What are you implying?" "That this trail wasn't Evan's idea," I replied. "It was hers." "That's ridiculous," Lena snapped. "Is it?" I asked. "You chose a place with unstable footing, minimal guardrails, limited access. You're reaching." "No," I said softly. "I'm remembering." The morning replayed itself in my mind with unsettling clarity. Lena lingering near the railing, Caleb offering to check the trail ahead. The sound of metal loosening under pressure. Instincts don't scream, they whisper. And mine had been whispering all day. 6 months ago, I continued, Evan updated his life insurance. Caleb turned sharply. "What?" $2 million, I said. "Beneficiary." "Stop," Lena sapped. "You're confused." "Lena," I finished. The wind seemed to die all at once. Caleb stared at her. "That's not true." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "He wanted to protect me. With an accidental death payout," I asked. "That's not how it—" "You insisted," I interrupted. "You framed it as planning, responsibility, commitment." Caleb took a step back. "You said this was business." "It is," she hissed. "It was." My chest tightened, not with pain but something heavier. Betrayal always weighs more when it's quiet. "You didn't just plan for his death," I said. "You planned for mine." Caleb's eyes snapped back to me. "What?" "You needed me gone too," I continued. "I saw you earlier. You shoved me after Evan fell." "That's insane," Caleb said. "You slipped." "I've slipped before. This wasn't that." Lena laughed sharply. "You're creating stories because you're scared." "No," I said. "I'm calm because I'm prepared." Her eyes narrowed. "For what?" I reached slowly into my jacket. She froze. "Relax," I said. "If I wanted to hurt you, I'd have done it earlier." I pulled out my phone. No signal. I pressed something, I said, casually. Her voice dropped to a whisper. What did you do? Activated a beacon, I replied, satellite-based. Caleb scoffed. That's not real. It is, I said, and someone I trust just received my location. Who? Lena demanded. A man who doesn't ask questions, I replied, and never ignores a call. She stepped back now. Just one step. But it was enough. Below us, Evan cried out again, louder this time, desperate. Lena, he called. Please. She didn't answer immediately. Her face changed. Not panic. Calculation. I'm going down, she said suddenly. I'll help him. No, Caleb said quickly. It's dangerous. I'm not letting him die, she snapped. I watched her carefully. She wasn't going to help him. She was going to finish it. Last chance, I said quietly. Walk away. She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time, her smile vanished completely. You should have stayed out of this, she said. Lena. We're too far now, she replied. The mountain felt closer again, like it was holding its breath. I realized something then, not with fear, but clarity. They weren't panicking because they believed time was still on their side. They thought they could still control the ending. They were wrong, but they hadn't realized it yet. And that made the next few minutes the most dangerous of all. Time behaves strangely when you're injured. Minutes stretch into something heavy and slow, like wet concrete setting around you. Every second becomes noticeable. Every sound sharpens. Every thought gets louder. The mountain went quiet. Too quiet. The wind dropped, leaving the ridge wrapped in an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant call of birds and the occasional scrape of gravel when someone shifted their weight. The kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own breathing and how fragile it sounds. I lay there half reclined against the rock, my shoulder burning, my ribs screaming every time I inhaled. I kept my face calm, even as pain pulsed through me in slow, deliberate waves. Pain is information. You don't panic. You listen. Below us, Evan groaned again. His voice echoed faintly up the ravine, uneven, strained. Alive, but not safe. Every instinct in me screamed to move, to crawl toward the edge, to anchor myself to something solid and find a way down to him. But I didn't. I stayed still. Because the real danger wasn't the cliff. It was standing a few feet away from me. Lena paced slowly now, pretending to scan the trail, as if help might magically appear between the trees. Her movements were careful, measured, nothing frantic, nothing wasted. People in real distress are messy. She wasn't. Caleb stood closer to the edge, peering down with his hands on his hips. From where I lay, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched and unclenched, like he was chewing on something bitter. They were both waiting for permission. Evan, Lena called down again, her voice soft, almost tender. Can you move at all? I don't think so, he answered after a pause. My leg, it's stuck. Her eyes flicked toward Caleb. Just a glance, but it said everything. He's conscious, Caleb muttered. That's a problem. I let out a slow breath. There it was, the slip. You should conserve energy, Lena called down, louder now. Help's on the way. I couldn't help it. I laughed. It came out as a dry, broken sound that made both of them turn toward me sharply. Something funny? Caleb asked. Just impressed, I said. You almost pulled it off. Lena crossed her arms. You're not making sense. You chose a good location, I continued calmly. Remote, spotty signal, a trail with just enough danger to sell the accident. Caleb took a step toward me. Careful, I added. Every step you take toward me is another decision you'll have to explain later. He stopped. The mountain felt smaller now, closer, like it was leaning in to listen. You don't know what you're talking about, Lena said. You're projecting. Am I asked. Or are you realizing I'm not as helpless as you hoped? Her fingers curled into her sleeves. That's when I noticed it. A tremor. Small, but real. Fear doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes it hides in the hands. How much was the policy worth? I asked casually. Caleb's eyes narrowed. What policy? The life insurance, I said. Evans, the one he updated 6 months ago. Lena swallowed. $2 million, I continued. Paid out fast in the case of accidental death. She shook her head. You're imagining things. Am I also imagining that you insisted on being named beneficiary? Right after convincing him to invest in your startup? Caleb looked at her now. What is he talking about? He asked. Her head snapped toward him. He's lying. He's not, I said. And you know it. The silence that followed was thick, heavy. Caleb exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. You said this was clean. It is clean, Lena hissed back. He's just trying to scare us. By telling the truth? I asked. Caleb's gaze dropped toward the ravine again. Toward Evan. How bad do you think his injuries are? He asked quietly. Lena hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. He could still survive, she said finally, if we wait. Caleb turned back to me. You said you called someone. Yes. Who? A man who hates loose ends, I replied. His jaw tightened. Depends how fast you make your next mistake. The wind picked up again, rustling the trees, carrying Evan's next groan up toward us. It was weaker this time. My chest tightened, not with fear, with resolve. Evan, I called out, forcing strength into my voice. Listen to me. Yes, he answered faintly. Don't move, I said, no matter what they tell you. Lena spun toward me. Stop confusing him. He's not confused, I said. He's learning. She stepped closer, looming over me now. Her shadow fell across my face. You really think anyone's coming? She whispered. Out here? Yes, I said, because I planned for days like this. Caleb laughed nervously. You're bluffing. I don't bluff. Another stretch of time passed. The sun shifted. Shadows crept slowly across the ridge. Every minute that passed without sirens tightened the tension around us like a wire. Lena broke first. We can't wait, she said quietly. If he survives, everything unravels. Caleb stared at the ground. And if we move him, he won't make it, she said. And it'll still look like an accident. I closed my eyes for a moment. Not in defeat. In focus. So that's it, I said softly. You're going to finish what you started. Caleb looked at me. You should have stayed home, old man. Funny, I replied. I was thinking the same about you. He moved. Fast, too fast for someone pretending anymore. He drove his boot into my ribs. Pain detonated through my body like an explosion of white light. I cried out despite myself, breath torn from my lungs as I curled instinctively inward. Lena flinched, but didn't stop him. That'll keep you quiet, Caleb said. I tasted blood, but I smiled, because pain was familiar, and they still didn't know what else I had. They turned toward the edge together now, urgency replacing pretense. Evan, Lena called down sweetly. We're coming to help you. Thank God, Evan said weakly. I forced my eyes open. This was the moment. I reached into my jacket with shaking fingers and pressed the second beacon. The sound cut through the mountain air like a scream, a piercing, unmistakable alarm. Caleb spun around. What the hell is that? Too late, I rasped. That one alerts emergency services directly. Lena's face drained of color. That's not possible. And it's already done. The alarm continued, echoing off the rock walls, impossible to ignore. In the distance, an engine, faint, but growing louder. Caleb backed away from the edge. We have to go, now. Lena hesitated one last time, looking down at Evan. Then she turned and ran. Gravel sprayed as they fled down the trail. Moments later, red and blue lights flashed through the trees. Voices, radios, boots pounding earth. Mr. Harris, someone shouted. Release hit me so hard I almost blacked out. I pointed weakly toward the ravine. My grandson, over the edge. Everything moved fast after that. Too fast. Rescue teams, ropes, shouting. Evan was pulled up alive. Broken, but alive. And as they loaded me into the ambulance, pain dulled by shock and adrenaline, one thought anchored me. This wasn't over. It had never just been about surviving. It was about making sure the truth followed us down the mountain.